Thank you. Please remain standing, please. Can we ensure all mobile phones on silent, please? It is with great sadness that I have to announce the sad deaths of Terry James, a driver in public transport, and Judith Hebel, a business support assistant in the adult access team. Our thoughts are with their respective families and friends. Please will members join me in a minute's silence as a mark of respect. Thank you. Please be seated. Right, have we got any apologies for absence, please? I've got currently Councillors Hart, Head, Jones, Thompson, Ryan, Morgan, Lynn Nightingale, and G. Jeffrey. Is there any more?
I think you did, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right. We've got the green form going round. If anyone needs to sign up, please. Can we move on to item 3? Confirm the minutes from the last counting held on the 27th July 2023. Thanks, Councillor Brown. Have we got a seconder, please? Thanks, Councillor Richardson. Can we agree the minutes as a whole? Yeah. Thank you. Have we got any announcements from the leader of the council, please?
Thank you, I'll call you Deputy Mayor and Mr Mayor. Just before I start, I wish Councillor Head a speedy recovery from his operation, and welcome you, Councillor Bendelow, to the role. I'm sure you'll be fantastic. There's a few councillors off with COVID as well, so I wish them a speedy recovery. And I know Councillor Hunt been struggling with his health over the last couple of weeks, so glad to see you here, Councillor Hunt. All right. So last month, East Cleveland, we saw intense rainfall, which left homes flooded and roads blocked. There was no warning, and deluge overwhelmed the drainage system, cut communities off. Our council helps families in need every day, and it was no different on that Saturday. Our staff were brilliant, as were the ward councillors, clearing gullies, drains, providing sandbags, and making roads safe. So my thanks go to everyone who went that extra mile. There's obviously things that we can always improve on, and we always take on board, but well done to the ward councillors for looking after your residents and the staff. Speaking of supporting those in need, Ofsted, we're usually positive about our staff, and we help vulnerable children who need protection. Inspectors visited our front door, and for that found a relentless focus on doing what was right for children. They also found improvements since their last visit, and praised the work the whole team is doing. Our congratulations goes to everyone involved. We now have a new home for Loftus Library after it was moved into a new community hub. The library is part of a much wider scheme which will transform Loftus for both local families and visitors to the area. We look forward to more of the scheme being completed soon. Our family hubs have been transformed to offer more services to more families during longer opening hours. The hubs will now support children and young people aged from 0 to 19 rather than 1 to 5 as previously. It is part of the council's wider work to tackle child poverty and provide more support for local families. Saltburn Cliff Tramway is among the best tourist attractions in the country. It beat off competition from Blackpool Tower, Morecambe Winter Gardens to be named the favourite seaside experience by Seaside Heritage Networks. And the tramway was named as TripAdvisor's Traveller's Choice Award winner. It puts the tramway among the top 10% listings on TripAdvisor, acknowledging its commitment to excellence. Very good. Firstly, our council was named as one of the best organisations in the country for training and skills for the second time. We are one of the only 53 organisations across the United Kingdom and Ireland to receive a Princess Royal Training Award for 2023. The judges were impressed with our work with the apprenticeships, its paid work experience programme and record in ensuring everyone involved has a great chance of getting a job. The awards honour organisations show an exceptional commitment to learning and development. The council received the same award in 2019 and is the only local authority nationally to be recognised this year. This is a fantastic achievement and everyone involved should be proud of the work they do. Also, just to mention the Dementia Action celebration that was in this chambers 2 days ago, I just wanted to give a special shout out to Marie and Brian, who are absolutely a force of nature, a driving force between a lot of good work in the borough for dementia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Have we have any announcement from Cabinet members? No, thank you. Just some announcements for myself. Councillor Head sends his apologies for today's meeting. He's still recovering from his knee operation, and I'm sure we all wish him well for a speedy recovery. The Mayor's charity race night on the 6th of October next Friday at Cleveland Golf Club is still taking place, and hopes you will be able to support the night by buying tickets or by donating a raffle prize. Do we have any announcements from the Managing Director?
Thank you. Just to remind all members of the conference scheduled for the afternoon of the 11th of October in this chamber. I think the session will now be a single focus on the financial challenge that the council faces. It was initially going to also look at the corporate plan, but we will set that in a future date to bring the corporate plan back then. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. We've had no questions from the public, so we move forward to Councillor Myers to report, please.
I don't know if my mic's on, there we go. It's a pleasure to be presenting my first annual report to full council. And if I may, Mr. Deputy Mayor, as I say in the report, it's a real honour to be holding this brief, making sure that children have the best start in life. I loved growing up here in our borough. I grew up in Broughton, and I was very lucky, and not all children growing up in our borough are as lucky to have that positive start in life. And so it's our ambition and our responsibility to make sure that all children growing up here are safe and happy and secure. This report is slightly unusual for any new councillors. The annual report is retrospective, so it covers the previous financial year. So it won't include any of the sort of recent discussions we've been having, and it covers 2 administrations. And so I would like to recognise the work of the previous Cabinet member, Councillor Alison Barnes, and thank her along with Councillor King for a constructive and positive handover. On my first day in the role, I set out 3 strategic priorities, and it's these priorities that form the basis of this report. They were tackling child poverty, improving our services, and working collaboratively to address significant pressures. And although we do face extraordinary challenges as a borough, and there's a graph in section 4 that illustrates this, I'm happy to report that on each of these fronts we have made some positive progress. The first we touched on at the last full council, and that's the shocking level of child poverty in our borough. 39.3% of children are living in poverty, 4 in 10. And the long-term impact of that is on poorer health, poorer education and skills outcomes, and worse job prospects. If we tackle this challenge, not only do we reduce costs in social care, but we boost our economy as well. It can be done, and as I say in the report, it has been done before in our region, and as we acknowledged at the last full council, this is largely the result of central government policy. We need government to wake up and address it, but that's not an excuse for us not to act. That's why we've developed a high-level child poverty mission intended to guide our approach as a borough, which will be published shortly, and it will include concrete policy steps that we're taking and will be followed by a broader child poverty strategy, which we're working in partnership with local organisations on, and that will fit with the regional strategy that's due to be published in early 2024. Over the last year, we've been undertaking steps to support families and encourage young people into jobs. Our careers team have worked hard to support young people at risk of disengaging from education or training, and I'm pleased to say that from a concerningly high level of NEETs in November last year, that number is now back in line with the regional average. We've been working with schools and colleges. We've also been working with local employers, and whether it's our business mentoring scheme supported by Anglo American, our Achieve mentoring scheme supported by Woodsmith, or the Building Our Futures STEM programme with SSE, it's about showing young people that they can go on to do anything that they want. Teesside can be a great place to work. We've got huge opportunities when it comes to the green jobs of the future, and it needs to be local people and young people who are accessing those opportunities. The second priority I set out was about improving our performance, and councillors will be aware that last year Ofsted's inspection of the local authority judged children's services as requires improvement. That was a real mark of shame for the council and a real risk as well. Financially, that road only goes one way. It ends with a statutory direction from central government and intervention costing upwards of £3 million. But it's also a risk to children. Every one of us in this room is a corporate parent. We all have a duty to the children in our care. We cannot let them down. And that's why I'm delighted to share, as the council leader mentioned, that in June this year, Ofsted inspected our safeguarding service, and that inspection was positive. From a service that had been deteriorating in 2021 and requires improvement in 2022, inspectors found that that improvement has been made. As Alex said, the report talks about a swift turnaround, relentless focus from staff on the front line, strong political support, and a committed and visible leadership. And councillors of all colours ought to take pride in that. The council leader and I were on site the week before to meet with staff, and I'm sure he would agree that the culture of the team is second to none. Absolutely incredible team. We'll continue to monitor performance, and I look forward to engaging with Ofsted further. The third area is about delivering our services and meeting those budget pressures that we all know are facing us. And the graph in 4.11 sets out the scale of that challenge. The number of children in our care has almost doubled in the last decade. The number of children with EHCPs has doubled, but the funding available has not kept pace with the need. Our central government grant has collapsed to the tune of £40 million over the last decade, and the result has been increases in council tax or bids for additional grant funding to meet that shortfall. 86% of councils nationally are now overspent in children's services. We need government to address this crisis, which is affecting councils everywhere. Our role has to be about delivering prevention and early intervention that ensures children are not progressing into those very expensive residential placements, which we know nationally are a dysfunctional market. Of course, for some children that will be the right place for them. It's not perfect, but it can save lives, and we have to reduce the stigma for care experienced young people. But we also believe that getting in early and keeping families together is vital, and if we do so, we can keep children safe and prevent costs. In terms of our statutory service, I don't have time to go through everything. It's in the report, but our social care teams, the match and the assessment team are performing consistently well with decisions made very quickly. When children do enter care, the priority is foster care. Recruitment and retention of our foster carers is positive. An additional 10 new carers were recruited in the last year, providing 15 additional placements. And that's absolutely critical to provide safe homes in the borough without having to progress to those very expensive external private placements. Education for children in our care is monitored very closely, and the data is moving in the right direction on suspensions, on absences, and we've successfully prevented 9 exclusions by working closely with schools. However, suspensions and permanent exclusions for the wider pupil body have increased, and that does create pressure on the local authority. The team have consulted with schools to provide support and alternatives to exclusion, and we've also secured additional funding for a theory of change project to improve school attendance. Our edge of care provision, No Wrong Door, has prevented 30 young people from entering high-cost placements so far. 3 have actually been completely returned from care back into the home, an estimated cost saving of £459,000. No Wrong Door is also now registered as a children's home and now has children living there as well, which is very positive. As I say, the most important role we can play is about delivering prevention and early intervention work, and there's a great deal included in this report, which I won't go into all of it here, but I would like to draw councillors to 2 areas. Firstly, we're very pleased to have developed the early help offer, and in particular our new Family Hubs transformation programme. Since the plan was approved at Cabinet on the 11th of July, all 9 sites have now been revamped, and it was great to join services and families at our new sites recently. I know many councillors joined us at those opening events around the borough. It's about more than just investment, it's about delivering services in a different way. We've brought together external services, NHS, VC partners with our health visitors and our support staff. It's about getting into the community, co-locating those services at the local level, and I'm incredibly proud of the team for delivering that work at pace. Secondly, I wanted to mention our vulnerable, exploited, missing and trafficked agenda to address the concerning level of risk of exploitation within our borough. We have a strong multi-partnership which has been recognised by Ofsted, and we've been progressing a sector-leading pilot scheme to work on risks outside the home. Our Youth Work Plus officers have worked with over 70 young people to prevent antisocial behaviour and drug use, and I'm very pleased to confirm that we'll soon be launching a specialist exploitation team, the SAFE team, which will focus on risk reduction and disruption, tackling the organised criminal gangs which are presenting such a threat to children and young people. To close, Mr Deputy Mayor, we are seeing record demand for services as councils across the country are, and we have not seen the level of funding to keep pace with that demand, and that's why we've called on government to address the soaring cost of funding children in care at a national level. Nevertheless, it is a privilege to work with our teams, and everyone I've met at all levels is so committed to supporting our children and young people and their families. With this in mind, I want to end this report not with my words, but with the words of His Majesty's Chief Inspector recently on viewing our services, when he said that staff and managers at the front door have a relentless focus on doing what's right for children. Social workers are tenacious in their efforts to speak with and visit children to ensure they're safe. They're knowledgeable, confident, and know their children well. They're unanimously positive about working in Redcar and Cleveland. There's strong political support and a committed and visible leadership team focused on improving services for children. Thank you. I'll move the report.
Right, we go through for questions to Councillor Meyer. We've got 10 minutes, it says here. Obviously, we will try and make it as long as we can. It's such an important issue, but can we keep the questions to the actual point rather than long speeches, please? Councillor Kay.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Meyer, my question relates to the illogical, ungrammatical and almost certainly inaccurate final sentence of paragraph 2.5 of your report. It states that our tracking methods have ensured that we have 0% of young people not known to this local authority. You are therefore claiming that this council has its tabs on 100% of these young people. A likely story. How can we possibly know there aren't children completely off the scale? If we don't know about them conveniently for our records and your report, they don't exist. Nobody in the real world could really believe the figure of 0%, a perfect score in an imperfect world. On the subjects of knowing things and not knowing things, I remind you of the immortal words of former US Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. He said, "There are known knowns. There are things that these are things that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns. These are things we don't know." Mr. Mayor, I've only got about a page.
You've not done a question.
Can
Going
I,
through.
right,
You've got about 18 pages.
No, I've
I mean,
got...
can we just have a question, please? Can we ask a question, please? Or because we've got 10
These
minutes.
okay.
Just ask a question, please. There's other people that want to speak.
These are things we don't know. That's the end of the quote.
Thank
You can ignore the unknown unknowns. I've just included them in the interest of completeness. It's the known knowns and the known unknowns that are relevant here. Will you, Councillor Meyer, explain how such an illogical and almost certainly inaccurate sentence is in your report? Is it not now your duty to admit to this council and to the
Councillor
public
Kay, can you sit down, please?
that the percentage of young people
Can you sit
not
down,
known
please,
to our
Councillor Kay?
authority is a known unknown, and certainly not a
Councillor,
0% known known.
Right, thank you. Councillor Meyer, do you want to answer so much of that, or do you want to just ignore it? Councillor Kay, can you sit down, please?
Well, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And there's another quote by Donald Rumsfeld where he says that if you're not being criticised, you may not be doing much. So in that vein, I'm very happy to answer the question. In terms of tracking neat data, we do have very robust numbers on this, and I will chase it with officers to confirm, but we are aware of every child that goes through our school system, and we are aware of the numbers that drop out that aren't in education and training. In fact, I've got the numbers right here. We've got about 200 young people in year 12 and 13 who are neat. It's 194, and that is in line with previous years. It's 6% of the total population of children and young people in the borough. Of course, we'd want that number to be none, but the national benchmark is 5.5%. So we are in line roughly with the national average. And it is a very small number of children and young people in the borough, which can be skewed year on year. But we do want to get that down to the national benchmark. I'm very happy to pick that up with officers to confirm, but I believe that the detail that's in the report is accurate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your report. Just a quick thank you before the question to the members of the Corporate Parenting Board and those that aren't on the Corporate Parenting Board that have been attending the meetings. It really has meant a lot to have that engagement from our young people, and it's the first time in a long time. Obviously, your portfolio is a huge challenge with the lack of government funding and the increase in children's care. It's something I've been bringing up for 8 years, but I'm going to actually give a tiny bit of background to explain why I'm going to ask the question I'm going to ask to Luke, which is if you are an electrician, a plumber, or anything else, and you work for this local authority on a self-employed basis, you are entitled access to the local authority pension as a worker, not as an employee. The only anomaly that exists countrywide is if you are... I need to explain the question. So,
Councillor Kay,
so
can you sit down, please?
The context is that if you're a plumber and you work 40 hours a week for this council for 40 weeks a year, you're entitled to access to the pension scheme. If you are a foster carer, you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and you are not entitled to join a pension scheme. The money that we can save this local authority and cut down on the overspend that Luke is facing is if we can get more in-house foster carers and we can give them benefits. They can't give up careers because their futures are ruined. They've got nothing to fall back on when they're too old to look after these children. So my question for Luke is, will you jointly work with me and write to the Minister for Children and the government to lobby for a change in legislation that if somebody is a foster carer, predominantly as their main income, that we will look at changing the law and providing the financial resources which in the end will save millions if we can get people into these seats. Will you work with me and write a joint letter with me to the government to change this anomaly that is nationwide and needs looking at a national level? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I absolutely agree with the critical importance of our foster carers, and you know, we have 177 children with foster carers at the moment, and we'd like that number to be higher, and the higher that number is, the lower the cost for the local authority in terms of children in our care, but also it's about making sure that children are placed with safe, loving households within the borough. I'm very happy to work with Councillor King to call on governments to raise this pressure. And I'm also happy to look at how we can better support our foster carers. That's something that's been live in the discussions around the budget when we've been looking at the deep dives. Obviously, we're in an extraordinarily challenging position as a department and as a council, but this is about the front line, it's about prevention as much as anything else, and I'm very keen to work together to make sure we deliver it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of course, what Rumsfield left out was the unknown knowns, the things that you know but don't realise you know. Thank you for the report, a very well written and thorough report. It's always good when you read a report that the voice in your head sounds like the lead member and not like their officers. That's really good. I think it's really good to returning to the end of 2.5 that Councillor Kate focused on. It's good that we have a statutory responsibility, but it would be good to know if the education and training venues also have a statutory responsibility, because the problem was never with us wanting to collect the information, but it was often with them giving the information to us about year 12 and 13 young people. Secondly, on the subject of 2.10, the Inspiring Women Awards, I'm interested in this because I've got a daughter in year 10. It'd be interesting to know which fields of work they will be shadowing. Because I think in the past there's been a tendency with the Inspiring Women programme to focus on mainly compassionate roles, but it would be good to see a wider range of job shadowing. 3.1.6. Congratulations on the Ofsted-focused visit and on solving that conundrum of when decisions are made about children. Obviously, one of the few things that they found fault with was so many referrals from Cleveland Police. So I know that the police sit on the Safeguarding Partnership. Do they also sit on the Children and Young People's Board, and do they attend? I think this is particularly important because obviously the police will say that they issue the notice to us because they're not social workers, and yet they're being required to make that kind of judgment. So if they attend the boards, you know, that's where they're likely to find out how to make those judgments. Two more questions, if I can find the right page. Can I also say that we support your determination not to make any cuts in the youth services that the council offers. I think you will find this particularly difficult to achieve because it's the only, or one of the only areas of children's services that isn't statutory, but we're very much behind you in your determination to do that. And finally, there's a lot in your report about the work of the academies in the context of our children in care and their education. There isn't much more widely about the academies. I assume that the school results will come in a separate report because there's a lot of number crunching has to be done these days before we get the information. But reading the report, you know, it is a little bit galling sometimes when our officers have to work so hard to try and stop the schools suspending or expelling one of our children in care, when you could argue that they've been here quite a while now and they've really failed to deliver the results that they promised us in terms of school results. And I think it is time to look them in the eye and ask them when they are going to deliver what they've promised. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I hope I cover everything here. I've been taking notes along with that. There's several dimensions there. In terms of NEET careers and the Inspiring Women's scheme, yes, we have been making sure that our women, our young girls have been placed with a range of different roles within the local authority, including strategic roles, ADs, directors, and indeed councillors. And I know that Councillor King had some young girls placed with her as well. And we're very keen to make sure that all levels of the council are accessible in terms of that. On the Ofsted inspection and police, yes, it was a challenge that the volume of notifications from Cleveland Police was inappropriate, and obviously that's not directly within our control, but it does have a long-term impact on us as a borough. We are actively working with Cleveland Police to improve that, and through both the processes that he outlined, but also through the work on the ground within the multi-agency Children's Hub. And there's a number of other interventions we're hoping to work together with Cleveland Police on to improve both contacts on the front line in terms of early help, but also generally across the system. In terms of youth service, I don't believe it says specifically what he said in his question within the report, but I do believe that our youth service is vitally important, and I've seen firsthand the importance of that on the ground, and it plays a vital preventative role in making sure that children aren't progressing into care and also aren't getting into antisocial behaviour and so on. And we've seen that recently. I think there's an example in the report of a young girl in East Cleveland who was presenting with quite difficult behaviours, antisocial behaviour, drug use, but because of the focused work of our youth service, that behaviour has stopped, and now she's back and engaged in school. In terms of school results, I have the results now. I will be sharing them, but I believe there's an appeals process through till January, and so it may be that we have to wait until then to share them. There are some really positive results from many schools across the borough. I'm very pleased that my own school, Freeborough, where I went to in Broughton, continues to go from strength to strength, and it's an extraordinary amount of work they've done. I was there last week to meet Gemma and the team, and the culture at that particular school is incredible. All of our schools are working incredibly hard in a very challenging circumstance. In terms of, I've got some information about the Inspiring Women Award as well. So we have seen lab technicians as well as our strategic roles. We've seen local production companies. There's a range of different roles that our young women have been placed with. And finally, I think just in terms of your comments about the voice of the report, I'm very grateful about that. And I think so often you hear with these reports a sort of dual voice coming through of the officers and the lead member, much like the Jekyll and Hyde that I know he's doing at Saltburn 53 very soon. So I'll look forward to seeing him in that. Thank you very much.
I'm not going to take any more speakers because we've gone well over the 10 minutes already. So, Councillor Leroy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It'll come no surprise that I want to address development with regards to point 4242 and 4243 and secondary school places. So the situation in Mask is that there's likely to be a development of 812 houses, but our current S106 regime allowed the developers and the landowner, the West Midland Pension Fund, to obfuscate and avoid building a primary school. This will put children, and Councillor Myers knows this full well because he lives on the same street as me in Mask, it will put children at risk walking alongside busy roads. They'll have to cross a road, cross a level crossing, go past a petrol station, and then cross a dangerous four-way. So, the question therefore is, will you work with the portfolio holder, Councillor Pallister, to ensure that a suitable S106 regime is put into place in the next local plan to prevent developers exploiting communities and putting children at a disadvantage by avoiding building new school infrastructure? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This obviously isn't something that's directly in my brief, and so I defer to Councillor Pallister on how we'll develop the local plan, but I'm very keen that we do make best use of our Section 106 funds, and in fact I had a meeting today about the child poverty agenda where we worked with some local partners to talk about the kinds of things that are within our control given the financial pressures facing the council. And it is things like procurement contracts, and it is things like the 106 requirements we put on developers. So I'm very keen to work with people across the chamber to make sure that developers are paying sufficient amounts to fund the infrastructure that we need within the borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quatermain.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Meyer, for your first report and eloquently spoken speech as well. Thank you very much for that. And I make no mistake that this portfolio is the most important of all the portfolios in this council, and I think everybody should recognise that as well. I think you've got some unpalatable decisions to make in the future, and I think we all need to be on board with you as corporate parents. My question is more parochial. It's going to be about COTUM. In the report, you talk about assets and place planning. Could you give me an update on the property on the corner of Millbank Terrace and Station Road? It's vacant at the moment. And I understand it's still managed by the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So that property has been under a revamp recently. It is now with the department. It was previously an NHS facility, and we approved in May a redevelopment to use that service. It's been funded almost entirely with Home Office funds, so very little cost to the council, but that facility in question is now a reception centre for unaccompanied young people. It's a really vital service. It's a state-of-the-art service that's supporting those very vulnerable young people that are coming into our care. And as I mentioned in the report, we have a really sector-leading team supporting that particular group of young people. There are 21 unaccompanied asylum-seeking children with us at the moment. And our team has actually been highlighted by the Open University and others as a sort of nationally recognised team that's doing extraordinary work. And I'm actually very proud, as I say in the report, to highlight Ben Chizanga in particular, who's a social worker with that team, who's been nominated for Social Worker of the Year award, a national award, with a ceremony on the 3rd of November. So we don't know who's won that yet, but just to be nominated for a national award is incredible. It just shows the fantastic work that's going on in that team, and that's what that facility is on Millbank Terrace.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's good to see the Skelton Youth Centre mentioned in your report, Councillor Meyer. My question is, how will this link with the new family hub at Skelton? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so the youth centre at Skelton is a fantastic asset, and I had an opportunity to visit it recently and meet with Paddy, who's a brilliant youth worker who's absolutely loved by the children who go to his groups. And the really useful thing about the Skelton site is it's right next door to our new family hub. And so we're really hoping that those two services can work together effectively. Obviously, the family hub service is there for all the way up to age 19, but much of the funding is there for the 0 to 5 age range. And so it's about making sure the services that we provide, like the youth service, is able to work jointly with that to provide benefits for all children and people.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for your report, Councillor Meyer. I'm glad and I'm really pleased to see that the ARC is now open, and it's a much needed respite service that was needed for a very long time. However, and I'm looking at the minute it's there till 18. I would like to see eventually that extended, and speaking with them, to the 25 for those with sending difficulties. We lack that services within our borough. It's the same with our family hubs. I'm so pleased that we've extended that now with our services to 25. I just think there's still a need, there's still that drop from when a child leaves school, but they still have send and that support. Can we work together and come up with something within the borough that means that parents aren't left in dire straits? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm pleased to hear about the new ARC respite provision, and it's a fantastic facility, and I hope that councillors were able to see it at its opening day recently. I saw Councillor Powley there when I went on its opening, and it's a fantastic, brilliant facility, and it's been run by an external partner, so in terms of how that's managed it. We'll have to work with them, but I'm very keen to see it develop. It has one young person in there at the moment, and it will continue to develop into the future. And I'm happy to work with Councillor Corley in terms of how we develop that.
Is that right? Sorry. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Meyer, for your detailed report. And I have just a generally supportive comment to make, hopefully. Encouraged by the work of the Corporate Parenting Board and the Chair, I took part in my first rota visit yesterday evening, which is about visiting children in care with their foster carers. And I was supported by an officer, so you're not on your own. And it was a very rewarding experience, and hopefully not too traumatic for the children who met me. But I would encourage all of my colleagues, all the fellow councillors, to consider taking part in the rota visits. I think it's something that's it's very practical, a practical way of supporting what we're doing for our children in care. Okay, thank you.
To echo everything that Councillor Kerr has said, and I'll pass on to the officers those comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the motions. Councillor Justin Thompson, and seconded by Councillor Paul Salvin, please.
Members, if I can have your attention for the next 5 minutes, it would be greatly appreciated. So the authority has previously taken action aimed at protecting the well-being of animals within our community. In particular, after a motion at full council in 2021, policy statements were introduced to ban the use of snares and sky lanterns on council land. However, further proactive measures should be taken to promote animal welfare by supporting a ban on all live animals being offered as prizes on council land during events and activities. And by working together, we can create a stronger, more compassionate community that safeguards the well-being of both our residents and animals. Implementing a ban on live animals as prizes will demonstrate our commitment to animal welfare and reflect the values of compassion and empathy that our community upholds. By taking this step, we set an example for other councils to follow and foster a community that respects the rights and dignity of all living things. To date, since 2021, 50 councils have implemented this ban. The use of live animals as prizes raises several ethical and practical concerns that demand our attention. Point 1, animal welfare. Live animals offered as prizes are often subject to stressful and unhealthy conditions. Transport, handling and exposure to unfamiliar environments can lead to their stress and quite often loss of life. Unlike animals sold at a pet shop, animals given as prizes are not currently protected by animal welfare legislation. That means that welfare standards do not apply to them. Point 2, responsible pet ownership. Permitting live animals as prizes may lead to these animals being given to individuals who lack the knowledge or resources to care for them properly. Point 3, ethical values. Our community should strive to promote empathy, compassion and responsible treatment of all living beings. Allowing live animals as prizes sends the wrong message and normalises the idea that animals are mere commodities. And point 4, the last point, environmental impact. The release of non-native species can destroy fragile local ecosystems and native wildlife. We have seen the impacts of dumping fish across our borough's waters, further damaging our declining native species. I ask that, if the motion is supported, that the Cabinet now takes the following actions to ensure the welfare of animals and uphold ethical standards in our community. Point 1, to swiftly introduce a further policy statement that explicitly prohibits the use of live animals as prizes during events and activities on council land by the most appropriate means possible. And lastly, to consider and establish, as far as reasonably practical, strict monitoring and enforcement measures to ensure compliance with the ban and implement appropriate consequences for violations. That concludes my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a seconder for that. Oh, yeah. Right, open up for debate. Councillor Leroy.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you very much for bringing this motion forward. I myself have been a vegetarian for a long time. I'm a vegan. You can probably tell that by how pasty I am, such is the stereotype. What I would like to say is that absolutely against goldfish being sold in bags, against hamsters. I've seen this as well, albeit in other countries, but hamsters being given as prizes and so on. So absolutely against that. However, as somebody who follows this quite closely, is anyone familiar with the 21st of June and what happened? The 21st of June in Parliament, the two MPs from this area voted on something called the Kept Animals Bill. And the Kept Animals Bill was to prevent primates being kept in cages. It was to prevent the importation and exportation of pets and to really go down on standards in terms of battery farming chickens, force feeding cows, and so on. All of those things, I'm sure everybody in this room thinks are fundamentally wrong. And that's why here there seems an element of hypocrisy, not on your part as an individual. As your part as an individual, Councillor Thompson, I believe that this is heartfelt. But I feel as though we need to add something to what you've written here, because yes, we should be preventing this within the boundaries of the borough, but what we all should be doing is taking a proactive step and calling on the government that failed to legislate when it should have on the 21st of June. And so I'd like to propose an amendment, Councillor Bendel, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and it's to insert at number 3, so to keep the motion, because we agree with the fundamental part of the motion. We just want to add section 3. So point 3 would be to write to the government, calling on it to implement urgently legislation to facilitate the above, including an outright ban on giving of live animals as prizes on both public and private land. So I'd like to propose the amendment and look for a second, please.
Have you got that in writing, please, Councillor Leroy? Can you pass it?
Sure.
Can we get some copies of that around?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just, excuse me, councillors, just while we wait for the motion to be given in writing, is everybody happy with the thrust of it, i.e. that one government legislation, so we can continue the debate, or do people want to wait for the actual motion and then start the debate? Because it's quite a simple, like, one line motion, that's all. Do you want to wait? Want to continue on? Want to continue? Yeah, right, we'll continue on then. I've got you've got a second there, so I've got Councillor K next to speak. Are you speaking on the amendment?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, are we speaking still to the motion, are we? The amendment to the motion?
Yes, please, Councillor K.
Yes, well, you know, to me, the amendment is really just an extension of the motion and an improvement on the motion, and I'm expecting those who move the motion to accept the amendment. Is that correct? Yeah. So I certainly think that we, as the dominant species in the world, we may not be the best species, but we're the dominant species. We don't treat our fellow creatures with respect or with kindness, and we exploit them, just as some of us are often criticised for exploiting human beings. And there's a little bit of self-preservation in this, because scientists now believe, cosmologists believe, that there might be alien species out there in the universe. Secondly, we're developing artificial intelligence. Both these entities could end up being the dominant species on the Earth before long. And of course, we will be the exploited then. And I think we would all resist and object and be terrified by such a prospect. So let's try to understand, put ourselves in the heads of the animals and try to understand what they must suffer being lined up for slaughter. This is even legitimate things, being exploited as pets, and then we're decimating the wildlife out there with various practices, and we need to respect animals more, try to live with them in the hope and expectation that one day somebody might treat us kindly.
Councillor Thompson, are you okay to accept this amendment as part of your motion? Yeah, is everyone agreed with that? Yeah, right, okay, no problems. Right, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I look forward to Men in Black 7 when we find out Councillor Kay was really put on this planet to watch us all. Just to say, this is a cross-party thing. I think I was happy to support the Conservative motion. More than happy to. It is a slight improvement, Councillor Leroy. I agree. We need to go further. It is a cross-party thing. Just like the Conservatives continued with babies' law, which the previous MP for Redcar passed. So we're more than happy to support your motion, but we'll support the amendment as well.
There's no dissent, so we just go straight to vote.
If no one else wishing to speak, it's summing up.
Right. No one else has indicated to speak. So, Councillor Thompson, do you want to sum up, please?
The summary that I'd like to say is thanks, Councillor Leroy, for adding that amendment. It absolutely was an objective anyway to get it into Westminster. So, yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote, please. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Anyone against? Right, moving on to appointments. Councillor Peter Grogan to replace Councillor David Taylor on the River Tees Port Authority. Can this be agreed, please? Thank you. Right, we've got 7 questions that have been received. Question 1 from Councillor Leroy to Councillor Richardson. Councillor Leroy, please.
Thank you. So, before we get onto the EV charge, I want to give the background in terms of oil. So oil and fossil fuels are not only responsible for climate change and for lung disease and all types of misery, but they're also responsible for economic control. Yeah, sorry, point of order. It's got to be done, Mr. Mayor, but the question that's supposed to be read out from the question on the sheet. I think you'll find that I'll put it in the supplementary. Sorry. It's all right.
Councillor Davies, he's got 2 minutes to speak, so he can speak for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Councillor Davies, I just took advice from the Monitoring Officer, and that's what he said, so that's the advice I'm taking with.
I'm happy to continue. We've got 2 minutes. I'll follow the Monitoring Officer. All right, so just to say that oil is a mechanism of control. So in terms of oil and the increase and decrease of price, who it rewards are the shareholders, people who don't work, but at the expense of people who are further down the economic pyramid. This is how oil works. Now, the reason why you see obfuscation and reduction of net zero targets, and the reason why you see the promotion of oil is because it is a mechanism of control. Not only a climate-destroying substance, but it's a way of keeping individuals down through high prices. It's just the same as the housing market now is becoming increasingly isolated. The best way to go about overturning the control of oil firms and corporate control is to produce renewable energy and also to have electric cars and cars that are fueled in a different way. I want to just give you an explicit example with regards to EV chargers and my own experience with renewable energy. Before I had solar panels and a battery on my house, my bills were $2,800 a year. They're now $300. So you can see the difference when we remove oil from the equation. So the question here is, what is the council's EV charger plan? And I would like to just hear it a little bit broader in terms of how we're going to free up many in this borough from fuel poverty and also outrageous bills and this outrageous
Councillor Leroy, can you sum up, please? Because we're running out of time.
Doing so now. This outrageous profiteering of British people and people of this borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I bring in Councillor Richardson to answer, the procedural error is the procedure is at 11.8 in the rule book. They have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Okay, right. I'll let you debate that later. Thank you for your question. So in answer to your question, we didn't inherit a plan from the previous administration. It is a priority of mine. And you'll be pleased to know that an electric vehicle charging strategy and action plan will be in the next cycle of cabinet papers, so you'll be able to view it in October. It is detailed. I think you'll be really pleased with it, and the main principles of it are the replacement of legacy chargers, assisting residents with on-street parking, encouraging businesses to convert to EV, and destination charging. I didn't prepare a question for how I'm going to get everybody out of fuel poverty with EV chargers, but we'll have a discussion about that after, okay?
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Leroy?
I would like clarification on how many charges and how these charges are going to be supplied.
I haven't got that with me. We've done 53 in the last 12 months across the borough. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know the strategy does have the exact numbers and destinations of where we plan for them all to go. Some of them are grant funded. If we don't get the grant, they won't go in, but some of them are council funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 2 from Councillor Leroy to Councillor Brook, please.
Councillor Davies will be delighted to know that this is as written. Will the council commit to putting a charge on, not putting a charge on green garden waste collections for the next 4 years? So no charge on green garden waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Short answer to the question, Councillor Leroy, is no. As all members are aware, this council is facing significant financial pressures and needs to consider all options available to help deliver a balanced budget. These options will be discussed at the upcoming member conference, where officers will be available to provide more details on proposals and answer any questions, and members can have an input.
Councillor Leroy, do you have a supplementary question?
I do now. That's an absolutely outrageous decision. Based on we want to reward good recycling behaviours, and this would prevent garden fires and fly tipping. It's a disgraceful decision to remove it. Do you have any recycling plan whatsoever, or is your plan simply to burn, burn, burn?
Just to confirm, no decision has yet been made. These are options on the table to look at the budget. Our commitment as councillors and corporate parents is to look after our children and young people, and all options to balance a budget need to be looked at.
Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Leroy to Councillor Brown, please.
Right, thank you. Right, we've already had a member briefing this morning in terms of the roundabout, and I've sent you emails already with regards to this roundabout. Those who are in the briefing will be familiar with it. So 281,000 has been supplied to move a roundabout and a crossroads. But what concerns me is the correspondence behind the moving of this roundabout, and that there is an accusation externally of undue pressure being put on the general manager of this council and then also key individuals within it. I think it's vitally important, with all of the accusations that are going on at the moment with regards to the Tees Valley Combined Authority and Tees Works, that we ensure that the integrity of this council is maintained, not only to protect us as individuals and to show our integrity as councillors, but also to protect those individuals who work for the council, often in senior roles, who have done an honest job so far to date. And so the question is, and I've already asked this previously informally, it emerged in the Yorkshire Post on September the 9th that the Tees Valley Mayor withheld funds to strong-arm the council into building a roundabout. Will the council leader commit to an open and fully transparent investigation into Redcar and Cleveland Borough Council's interactions with the Tees Valley Combined Authority and Tees Works?
Thank you, Councillor Leroy. There's a theme here. The answer is no, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. You shake your head, but there's a couple of reasons. The first reason, there's already an investigation going on that's being paid by the taxpayer, Councillor Leroy, and as Adam couldn't commit to us on the garden waste over 4 years, this council is overspending on children's services. Why should we go and spend council resources and ask the taxpayer again to fund an investigation when you quite rightly say we've been honest? Everything on this side of the whole roundabout, the magical Zebedee roundabout, we've done and been fully transparent. It was before my time, but I've been fully updated by the managing director in terms of what was happened and what was said. All the FOI requests from the Gazette, the Yorkshire Post, the Private Eye have all been replied to and fully transparent. So why would we want to duplicate? Let's see what I'm told that Michael Gove's investigation or the government's investigation will come back at the end of October. Let's see what that says, and let's reference rather than duplicating and asking the taxpayer to double down and spend more money and council resources that need to go into making this council run on a daily basis. Thank you.
Councillor Leroy, do you have a supplementary question, please?
I don't buy the 7 million deficit that you've got there. 7 million was given by this council to the airport, to the Tees Mayoral Authority, and that 7 million was to essentially supply money to get them out of the quagmire with regards to their financial plan. There's clear evidence that's on the table that suggests pressure was put onto this authority and has changed decision-making process, including putting pressure on monitoring officers and putting pressure on planning departments. So I would ask you to reconsider again your position with regards to this investigation, because if you don't, it could implicate people within this room who are completely innocent of the affair. You clearly have more faith, and this is the question. Do you really have faith in this investigation that's going on now to provide the truth?
No, what I have faith in, Councillor Leroy, is my word and the word of what I've seen. I can confirm that there was a suggestion in emails and other communications, there was a suggestion of withholding funds from the TVCA until the roundabout delivered. I'm telling you that now. And you don't need an investigation, you don't need to spend money. It happened. The FOIs are out there, it'll all be in the investigation, Councillor Leroy. I'm completely confident that all officers acted completely transparent and have been nothing but transparent since. Okay?
Thank you. Question 4, Councillor Taylor to Councillor Brook, please.
In my normal work, I spend quite a lot of time travelling around the north of England and south tips of Scotland, and it's interesting to see what some of the other councils do. So my question, and it's quite a long one, so we can do it as read if you like, but it's more of a question and also a suggestion to try and help the council out and also the environment as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Councillor Taylor for bringing this. We've discussed this over the telephone, and it crosses over between myself with grass cutting and Councillor Richardson with biodiversity. report, I'll give you the answer. So regards to Beyond Housing, as you know, we meet with the representatives quite regular, so we'll be requesting a schedule of grass cutting next year, and they're invited to the next Climate and Environment Scrutiny and Improvement Committee, where we'll be discussing further their plans on biodiversity and what their plans are for next year and go forward. Regards to the council acknowledges the benefits of letting grass grow longer in some areas, and this approach forms part of the council's biodiversity strategy, which is currently being developed in conjunction with the Tees Valley Wildlife Trust. Member workshops are to be held in October to discuss the biodiversity delivery plan, which will set out the tangible actions that will help to improve biodiversity across the borough. This will also include a review of grass cutting frequencies, the development of meadows, and consideration given to areas where low to no maintenance would be appropriate. An important element of the biodiversity and delivery plan is communication and interpretation. This will help residents to understand why areas are being maintained to different standards and what the benefits are in terms of biodiversity. We will certainly take your advice on board and investigate the idea of sponsored signage to support the cost of communication campaigns and further investment in biodiversity schemes.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you have a supplementary question, please?
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Thank you. Right, move on to question number 5. Councillor Clark to Councillor Richardson.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. So, Wayne, I've got 2 minutes, mate, to procrastinate and do what I want to do. But to give it some context so everybody knows and fully insured, I'm going to talk about Belmont House and ask direct questions about Belmont House, which is what I would class as the white elephant in Gisborough. That building's only been up for about 20 years, and if we ever do get to a place and a time when we get new owners, either buying it or leasing it, they may need and want to demolish it. So please, I want you to bear that in mind because of the financial constraints that we find ourselves in. But the question is a good question, so I'm going to read it out because there might be members of the public and members of the media. And I quote, "I understand the original timetable for the sale of Belmont House was all local authority staff out of the building by Christmas last year and the sale lease of the building completed by February this year. This has not happened, so can it be confirmed that this local authority does have a preferred bidder for Belmont House? And when will this sale go ahead, bearing in mind it will involve a planning application and have an impact on the community of Gisborough and the local authority's finances?" Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. Have I had my 2 minutes? Ooh. Go on. I'll give you a joke. Crab goes to a disco, pulls a muscle.
Councillor Richardson.
Have I got? I'm advised an in-person briefing was held in January 23, stating that the marketing had identified a preferred bidder. The estimated timescale for the sale was the latter part of this year, with the bidder needing to carry out site surveys, local searches, and the offer is subject to the planning permission being secured. It was also communicated that the intention was to retain some staff in the building up until completion of sale, so as not to leave the building empty. The sale is still progressing with that bidder with a slightly revised and estimated timescale of being early next year, subject to the planning. Planning application is expected to be lodged in the next 2 to 3 months, and the budgeted savings for the council have been achieved, with next year's element on track to be delivered as budgeted.
Councillor Clark, do you have a supplementary question, please?
I think I'd better have Mr Deputy Mayor, yeah. There's nothing new there. I knew all of that, I'm sorry. But it's going to be hard for me to say this, but in the past 2 to 3 years, Mr Deputy Mayor, I believe personally I have been deceived and stalled about the future of Belmont House, because I've known that this was going to happen for about 2 to 3 years. And I've got proof, I've got physical proof, and I've got email proof. What makes you believe then, in just the Labour administration, doesn't need to be yourself, Carrie, that you can trust this answer on behalf of us, the members, the residents of Gisborough, and obviously the residents of Redcar and Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't have any evidence to say that the sale is not going through, or, I mean, I suppose if you shared some of those emails with me, I could look into it, but as far as I'm advised, the sale is going through and will be early next year.
Thank you. Councillor Grogan to Councillor Brooke, please.
Hello there. Mr Deputy Mayor. The Bourton Lake of Cotham, it's been around since 1930. Brought enjoyment to generations. Bet some of us actually fallen in it. Tasted that oily, salty water at one point. But it hasn't been filled properly for a while. What are the future plans do the council hold for the Bourton Lake?
Yeah, thank you. Totally agree with the needs action around the Bourton Lake. I've already met the local ward councillors and officers on site to look at this, and it crosses over multiple portfolios. But I can confirm that the council is actively looking at options around improving the operation and accessibility of the lake. This could include undertaking capital physical works to the lake and the surrounding area, alongside exploring opportunities for commercial uses going forward. To date, no firm plans have been established, and any deliverable project to be developed would be done in consultation with the local community. Just to confirm, there's currently no capital budget to undertake any physical works on the Bourton Lake. However, I can confirm the council is actively exploring external funding for the future generation.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor?
Yeah, I actually asked members' inquiries regarding how much was actually spent on the Bourton Lake, and it's not a specific number, but for the whole of the seaside seafront budget, it's £4.5 grand, and that's one of our main selling points in the borough. I know we've struggled for money, but we've got to try, and it's our main selling point for our town. And personally, with the Bourton Lake, you've got the miniature people, the miniature boating association that go on there, all those memories. I think we've had so many things knocked down. Let's keep some heritage for this town. Thank you.
Are looking at is obviously all these capital projects coming forward, but they don't have the revenue to go with them for the upkeep, especially on my departments with environment and street scenes, and it's something we'll be looking at going forward.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Powley to Councillor Brooke, please.
Many of our residents are greatly suffering from antisocial behaviour. Not everybody is aware of the Copper app. How can we promote it more?
So, Paula, the community safety team are aware of the Copper app and do recommend this when working with residents on active cases. The council has also shared information across its social media sites to raise its awareness and will continue to do so. At present, the app is not referenced on the council website, but we will work with the communications team to ensure a link is made available. I would also encourage members to raise awareness by sharing it across their own social media channels and by encouraging residents in their local communities to use and report incidents and information as appropriate to help get the information in.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor?
Could we invite the Crime Commissioner to talk to us more about this, give more people more information? I know previously that they'd spoke about it to the previous council, but there's a lot of newbies in now that might not know all about it, and it would be maybe positive for people.
With an invitation coming to scrutiny, or would you prefer a member briefing?
Thanks, everyone.
Could I seek further clarification, please, on the submitting and asking of questions? Because it seems to me that if you submit a 7-word question and you've got 2 minutes to deliver it, then in that time, if you spoke quickly enough, you could ask another 9 or 10 questions, only one of which would have been submitted in advance. Is that allowable to ask further questions? I'm wondering if I should test it out in the next council meeting. Who shall I pick on to ask 10 questions, only one of which is written in advance on paper?
I'll send you a recording of one of the meetings where one of us here in this room got
Right, can we have a bit of order, please? Councillor, can we have a bit of order? We're getting the monitoring officer to answer the question for you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. There is a procedure rule in the council procedure rules which specifies that there is a period of 2 minutes to ask a question on notice. So the content of the question does have to be on notice, but I would say the time limit does allow for some preamble ahead of that for those questions. I would say not councillor, because the questions are on notice, so if you add further questions they would not be on notice.
We thought that was a statement, but that's it. Right, thanks very much everyone, and the meeting's now closed.